Hi, everybody. I am so glad that you're all here. This is my first time giving a talk during open spaces. It's one of my favorite parts of the conference. And so I really appreciate you all choosing to be here. So thank you for that. Before we go anywhere today, I want you to imagine something. Close your eyes if that's your thing, or just keep them open. But imagine being part of this glorious team where you get to focus on what you're really good at. You use your strongest skills, but you also learn a couple of things that actually genuinely excites you. When you're on leave, you don't worry about checking your Slack or catching up on your alerts because you know your team got your back. You know why your work also matters. You can actually match them with the business goals, and that makes you happy to wake up and do what impact you want to create. When your on-call is messy or your stand-up sucks, you can actually talk about it in the team and make them better. And as a result of this, your team consistently hits the goals, and you just genuinely feel happy about being part of it. Now, take your time and just let that settle on your body and feel that positive effects of what trust feels like. And it's wonderful because one way or another, we all want to be part of a place like this, whether we are an engineer in the team or a manager who is steering the direction of the team, or even an organization that wants to create teams like this. So how do we get to build one is what I would like to explore with you today. My name is Busra. I run my own company now, Humans in Systems, because I care about humans in tech, where I coach and mentor engineers, early career managers, and I help organizations make incident response more fun, collaborative, and humans. In fact, I talked about incidents 2 years ago on this stage. Before starting my own adventure, though, I spent over a decade doing reliability and infrastructure work and be part of the DevOps, SRE, infrastructure team, whatever you call your organization. I was part of them for almost a decade. And for my entire career, it felt like this. Can you relate to it, that it always has more than you can possibly handle? It always had more than that. And when something new came up that other teams didn't have much capacity of, or they didn't know what they need to do, it would always end up in my team. From creating Kubernetes clusters, doing things on site, or even helping developers to expose right metrics, it had a long range of topics, very busy Slack support channel with very little people to respond. And my wish was one day to do this really differently, because I was an IC, and to get to build a team where I can do whatever that actually works and harness the power of intelligent group of multipliers. And then I got there, and I had no run book. I was already a big part of an SRE group where we were doing all kinds of SRE things, and now we wanted to split off and do a team just focused on incident management in a 5,000 organization, 5,000 people organization. I was really excited because this is the thing that I was really passionate about as a topic. And some folks came from somewhere in the company, and some people were entirely new. We had a slightly extended context. Even though we were a team now, we really never worked together. And up to that point, I read countless of management books because I really wanted to get there. But I was also really worried if I was able to pull off completely new set of people. And thank God, this magic run book appeared to me on the times when there was a Twitter. And that became my North Star, and that's also the inspiration of this tool. So let me introduce you to Tuckman's group development model. It was developed in 1965 by psychologist Bruce Tuckman. This model says that teams go through 4 stages or groups to become, it's necessary and inevitable to become a performing team that they are. And each of these stages needs different kind of support from a leader or a manager to get to the next. And when you get there, you, as a manager, really need to know where your team is so that you can be that and fill the gaps. When I came with this model, it really landed with me because I knew exactly where we were. We were in the forming stage. And I could really focus on what I wanted to do. And I didn't see this in any of the management books before. Now, if you see the team topologies book, it's actually mentioned there. I saw that later. So quick disclaimer, this talk is about the happy path. And I know we don't test about happy path in software. We love failure stories and challenges and everything. But this is really going to be all this path that I went through with my team. And because this topic is extremely abstract, I'm not going to talk about transparency and autonomy and all these things, but I'm going to give you a lot of practical strategies moving through these stages. So it starts with forming and storming. This feels a little bit like a roller coaster. I put them together because they're highly tight. So this stage, your team, and you included, have a little bit of an excitement of something new. That's why it's a little bit high, and people are excited about coming together. There's a new org, and there's a new team. But there's also a little bit of anxiety about something unfamiliar. There's new people. And even though you might look like a team now, you're also a little bit isolated because you don't know these people that you're working with. And one of my biggest fears as a manager was really doing too much. And this gave me all the reasons to do just what my team needed. Because at this time, your team needs a lot of hands-on support. So it needs a lot of introduction, facilitations, and you need to show them a little bit of a big picture. So let's start with this. Raise your hand if your team actually has a written mission statement that you understand. Like 8. So little. And yet, product teams usually have a clear mission. They even have a user base, profiles. They even have a project managers. They know what they're doing and how it relates to business. But we rarely have this in the platform teams, even though we handle a lot more than one can see. So even though in a nutshell, we all know that our mission is enabling other people autonomously deliver value easier, faster, and safer. But your mission, your specific mission statement, should lay out the how. And so the first thing that we did was to create a mission and vision statement together. I really value about the co-creation because that's how people own something. So the first thing is, what do we do? So if I need to give you an example, I'm going to give my teams. So we build a culture of resilience by using incidents as learning opportunities for the entire organization. Why is this important? Because we build a culture of resilience, because incidents are a natural part of complex systems, and the best thing we can do to helping them to use the return of investment the best way that we can. And how do we do this? Here you can lay out all the hows, all the tools that you have. We aim to support every stage of an incident, from on-call to response to learning, by giving people the right tools, the care, and the partnership. And our stakeholders are huge. You can also put down together that who are the people that you're serving. And lastly, where do we want to get to? We envision an organization where every engineer is empowered to respond to emergent events with confidence, resilience, and not weighed down by stress or burnout. I'm sharing this not because you should copy, and you can, but it also shows you what's possible. If you're building a platform or a CI/CD pipeline or certain compute layer, you can write your own purpose, and that speaks to you and why it matters and brings people together. Because once we did this, it really became like a shared mantra, where people could really use it when they are going to other meetings to introduce each other. They could share it with another team to give an example. It kind of gave them the clarity and the confidence, like, this is what we do, and that's why we exist. And so it gave us early on that common language where we know what we were building, and that's not just this tool that is in GitHub. And the other important thing during this phase, the forming and storming, is having regular one-on-ones, but also with each other. So not just with the manager, but with also the team members. I think it's a little bit uncommon, not very common, but I genuinely believe that in this stage it created a lot of value, Because trust is built in these small places where we keep showing up with each other. And this gave people that smaller, more comfortable setting to show up with each other, where they could talk about whatever that helped them to connect. And that connection later would show up in our team meetings with more confidence. And eventually they would use these times to pair work, and you should definitely prioritize, hyper-prioritize pair work and collaboration, but also they did hold one-on-ones together where they could talk about anything. These are the two things that I just wanted to share with you on this stage. As you go through a little bit towards a place where people get to know each other and they know why they are together, you start to get to the norming stage where now you really have to shape what works. During this stage, you usually feel like you have a little bit of a sense of purpose, a little bit more confidence, and engaged and supported. And during this time, you really, as a manager or a leader or a senior in the team, your team needs a little bit less from you. It needs more recognition of the team efforts, regular feedbacks, and monitoring the energy so you can see how things are going. I don't think, I'm going to give you two examples, but I don't think they're going to be new, but at least they're going to give you a little bit about how we adapted them for ourselves. How many of you have retrospectives on a regular basis? And how many of you find them valuable? More or less, yes. I think they're extremely important to create psychological safety. And the things that we especially made sure that happen in our retrospective is that everything was welcome, such as my cat was sick or I got food poisoned last night. Because life continues to happen even when we are at work. And if we are able to talk about that, that's how we can kind of create the psychological safety in our teams. And it's really worth surfacing that. Lastly, you know how retros are, probably yours also have. It has what went well and what can go better. And the last column that was a default for us was appreciation. Every 2 weeks, we did say thank you to something, to each other or somebody else in our team. So if I took over someone's on-call rotation because they had to take their cat to the vet, they could definitely thank me for that. And imagine you do this every 2 weeks for 3 years in a group of people. And that's kind of the environment that kind of creates, that is very, very fostered in gratitude and safety. Lastly, we rotated this facilitation. As a leader or anybody in the team, I really didn't own the retros. We already used the tool for it. We knew what to do. We were a completely remote team. So if I was on sick, somebody else would do it. Next other 2 weeks, somebody else could pick it on, because all we had to do, put out our opinions and then talk about what was most voted. And it doesn't really need someone specifically to do them. Very similar to retros, you also probably have stand-ups. Early in my career, I sat through so many useless stand-ups that people would come in, try to say something slightly different than yesterday, just to sound like progress was being made. We would go around the circle, listening to updates that we didn't need, and for work that no one needed help with. It was a ritual that had actually no purpose, and I think we can do better. Because these rituals are really our tools, just like any other tools that we adopt in DevOps or any other place. They are tools, and like any other tool, they should work for us. They should be in a place where they create the most value for us, and not the other way around. And you can do this with your rituals too. They are not as abstract as we think. So instead of stand-ups, we did check-ins, which was 30 minutes meetings twice a week. This had a co-created agenda, so it wasn't about the tasks, but people could write down what they wanted to talk about, something that they needed help with. They could share a learning, or they needed to give us a heads up. They needed to change an on-call rotation, whatever that was. They could put it on the agenda, and that's what we talked about. And if we didn't have anything, we would skip the meeting, and that would have been totally okay. And once you build this kind of rhythm, something cool starts to happen as you go through slowly towards a performing stage. And in this stage, it feels like there's a little bit of a high motivation. There's a consistent performance, there's a bit of a high autonomy, and what it needs during this time is really very minimal intervention as opposed to first. You celebrate a lot more success, what's going on, and also you collectively, continuously enable collective decision-making. You probably ask, okay, it looks like retros and plannings, everything goes, look, whatever OKRs, we do this OKRs that no one wants to do, and I need to write a document every quarter that also looks a little bit like stand-ups, that I need to change the words, that looks slightly different, but we just want to continue doing what is in our backlog. And I feel that way. When I became manager, this became even especially harder because I knew the work, and now I had to make up words for it. The one thing that really helped me was to find a way where I can put business priorities with people's interests or ideas, because that's how actual work is actually done. So one thing that really helped us to do a quarterly brainstorming sessions, it's very similar to retros. It's going to have one place where there are celebrations. You can talk about what was amazing about a quarter, what you achieved, what was good, then what we lacked, certain things that we couldn't do, or we wanted to do more autonomy, we didn't have it, anything. And the last session would have ideas you would like to push, so that anyone in the team could write about, I'm really passionate about this, I would like our next quarter to have some space to do this. And just like the retro, we would then vote on these ideas, and I would also get a little bit of a sense of what the most people excited about in certain projects, and how do they feel into our next OKRs. And it also gave me, then I would take these things and run with my own context and with my own manager, and then eventually draft an OKR doc that looked nothing like a surprise to anybody in my team. And I also insisted not changing OKRs. So even if I don't think it's realistic that our objectives changes every 3 months, because we cannot possibly have a different goal in 3 months from now. So I at least kept them for 6 months so that we could continue nurturing certain goals, and I didn't have to come up with new words for it. And during this high-performing stage, or towards that, one thing that you might now sit back, because you have a little bit more space to look at your team, is to, what are we missing that could be potentially good addition to the team? And the one thing that I really, if there is one thing I want you to take out of this talk, would be this amazing practices that we run with my team when we were actually on site, is to create a team matrix. And team metrics is a thing that kind of shows you what you miss, what skills that needs in your team, and how you can find the gaps. And it looks like this. So in the first column, you have skills, technologies, areas of knowledge. And you come up with it with your team together. What makes this team successful at its goal? Well, we write our tools in Golang, so we need to be quite efficient in Golang. We train people for incident management, or we go to a lot of people to talk with different stakeholders, so we need to be good at a little bit with public speaking. And you can write Terraform, you can write all kinds of areas that your team uses day to day. And then there is 3 other columns that one says, I can learn it, and I'm interested in it. I can do it, and I can teach it. Then everyone goes around the room and then put their names under these things. So, for example, Jen says, Golang, it was a new person in the team. I don't really know Golang so much, but I'm really interested in learning it. Busra is me, I can do it, I'm quite sufficient in it. And Jeremy is pretty good at Golang and maybe could help Jen to get better. And the same way the other way, so people could, I thought it was important that people also could put what they're interested in. It's not. I found this thing on the internet and I kind of created my own version of it. Because that could kind of see where people's interests are. What are the areas that we could help each other to learn more about? And then if there is something that I'm really lacking, this would make our team a lot better. And next time I need to hire someone, I know how to write a new job description that could really put down those things that my team is missing. Because after all, your team is bigger than some of these people. And its own entity, and we don't, in fact, need to have similar people. We need to have as diverse perspective and skills as possible. And having these kind of things together with your team, not only that creates a lot of clarity in the team itself, but it also gives you as a manager kind of a gold mine. it actually also created a couple of conversations in the team where people were so humble to tell or put their name into, I can teach it. Some other person would say, no, you're really good at it. You can totally teach me this. You're perfect with it. And then they could put their name into the same column. Now, later research shows that storming actually happens throughout the team development. So you can imagine that it always repeats itself, kind of, even though it's slowly going up. And it makes sense, because your team don't stay static. They shift, they grow, someone leaves, someone joins, and priorities evolve. So this kind of friction and certain things can return in very small waves, even in high-trust teams. So there was actually someone in my team that really loved being there. He was, since the beginning, that he was able to contribute to the team, but somehow he always struggled to finish things on time. So in the beginning, this is okay, because you're still trying to find your footing and trying to understand how everyone is doing. But it became especially clear after we did the skill metrics, and then he realized that there are skills that he has that our team cannot provide opportunities to grow. And you always know when someone is not able to just tap into their potential just because their environment is not right. It's most of the time, everyone goes to work to do a good job. No one wants to actually stay on the behind or not see that their efforts are paying off. And because now that we built enough trust and we tried everything in our team, it was confusing to him to leave this good place, but we could have a good conversations about an environment, about skills, about what this team exactly needs and what they need to know or learn or teach. So eventually we were able to find him another internal team. We selected together, me and him, and then we looked at these teams, especially their sprints, how their mission looks like, how do they create tickets, how clear they're on their tickets, so they could kind of have some ideas about if he would like somewhere like that. And not only that actually helped him to find another place, but he was also having this idea of what a good team rituals looks like, how to look at certain things, and he could find a better place for himself. And the other storming happened when I decided to leave my team. I left this team about 9 months ago. It was a lot. It was due to a long overdue career break that I always wanted to have. And it was the first time I left a job as a manager, and it definitely is harder than any other job that I left, because when you create something so nice and you put your own heart in it and you love the people you work with, you really worry about how this change is going to affect them. And I think the reason that didn't affect them so much, because they knew what they created now and they could go on a little bit until the replacement was there. Now that I talked to them after this many months, because I told them I'm giving this talk, they did mention that how much stretch that was, because two people stepped up to do some of the more stakeholder management, some of the more writing OKRs and things like that. Now they actually know what also a manager does and how kind of helps them move a little bit further. But eventually they were able to choose their own manager and actually make sure that the legacy, their own, what they created, could go on. And I want you to know that DevOps is enabling. And if we don't experience that, I don't know how we're going to make it possible for other people. So if you're in a team that you don't feel yourself that's enabled, you can always make these things better. And you have a power to do that. A team has more engineers than a manager. So don't also forget as an individual contributor to have that power, because enabling is bigger than managing. And rituals, like any other tools, I don't think you got many new things from here, maybe about the models, maybe about the metrics, but they are any other tools that you're using. So please use them and adapt them to your own needs and continuously make them work for you. And lastly, autonomy is not about giving people whatever they need to do and then they do it, or I don't know how everyone thinks about autonomy, but it really comes with clarity and trust. People are not extremely autonomous when they have fear. They can do those things and it might look like autonomy, but the real autonomy where people can empower to take what they want to do and they can push it towards what is even there possible, they can only do that when they have enough clarity and they have a trust to come back and talk about things. And if we have high support with each other, we have more empathy for our users. If we feel that we are more empowered to do our own choices in our team, we can make better choices for our users that we enable. And with that, that's my talk. I'm really curious if I am this early. Has it been only 16 minutes?
4 minutes early.
4 minutes early?
No more.
Okay, I'm seeing, oh, it is the time.
Yeah.
Okay, because I'm like, I was so confused. But thank you so much for being here. And also, I made these stickers. If you take them already, because I put them and they were all gone, I still have some. Come talk to me. I didn't put any branding on that because I don't like as an engineer to put something on my laptop that has a branding. But someone told me very tiny letters, I can put it next time so you know where to go and find me. I think I might do that next time. Thank you very much. Yeah. Enjoy your rest of the day.